which I had a lot of fun doing. I had more fun than I thought I would. Did you guys enjoy it?
I did.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get started. I guess I'll go first. We got it pulled up here. So I had it broken down to college football playoff contenders. Big three, Oregon, or I guess I shouldn't say big three like Penn State's a shoe-in to be in that tier. Oregon and Ohio State for sure. I do like Penn State. Brooke and I were texting about earlier. They got the offensive coordinator from Kansas, so I think we'll see a lot more creativity, a lot more RPOs with Drew Aller. And that'll kind of combat the fact that they don't have a great deep threat, because that's what the problem was when they ran into Ohio State and Michigan, is that you just stack the box, put a couple of safeties over the top, and let your guys on the perimeter win. And not a whole lot they could do there. So I think those could be three of the top five teams in the country. Pretender tier is genuinely teams who could make the Big Ten championship with no other reason being their soft schedule. Rutgers has 0 ranked teams on their schedule. Iowa has 1. Just a absolute baby poop soft schedule.
Wait, so are we putting that much into preseason rankings, Brandon? Is that what we're doing?
I mean, I guess not, but like if one team has to play 3 ranked, yeah, okay.
Because, say Nebraska gets ranked somehow, then Iowa has 2 and Rutgers has 1, right?
Yeah. So, okay, so I'll just put it like this. Rutgers doesn't play Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, or Iowa.
There we go.
There
we go. Now we're talking.
That's a baby shit soft schedule if I've ever heard it.
Yeah, so and considering the Big Ten doesn't have any tiebreaker scenarios set up yet, they could
rooting for chaos.
Well, and the Big 12 kind of ran into it last year when they had a boardroom meeting in November to figure it out. So I got to imagine if it comes to that in the Big Ten, Rutgers isn't going to get that great of a shake. They're going to just sit down like, what do we have to do to keep Rutgers out of this Big Ten championship game? And then the next year, Michigan and Washington. I just turn on the 2023 highlights. These teams, I feel very confident that Washington's going to stink this year, and everything that my eyes are telling me is that Michigan's also going to kind of stink too, but it won't be as stinky as Washington. Then once they get their bowl bans and their scholarships taken away, then they'll actually be once they throw Sharon Moore in jail, then they'll actually be stinky. Yeah, and also yes, I get that. They probably did win. They were the best team in college football last year. But also, if you have your coach suspended for 25% of the season for 2 different allegations, that's not a clean championship. Is that? Am I out of my mind there?
No.
Don't tell that to Grant.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. If you look up who is listed as the national champion, I don't give a shit.
That was a big asterisk next to it. And then Nebraska, USC, Wisconsin, Frisky. They could make a run, or they could have double-digit win seasons. Wisconsin, I'm really just kind of banking on Luke Fickell. There's nothing outside of my admiration for him that would keep Wisconsin in this tier, but they're there. And then Illinois, Minnesota, and Maryland. I think they'll not Minnesota fans because they're delusional a bit. So they probably won't be, but they should be happy with the bowl game this year.
Well, they'll probably be crying over the Vikings, so they should be all right this year.
I want them to have some fun, but not a lot.
I don't. I was number 1. Oregon's getting up there, but outside of that, Michigan's the most annoying Big Ten fan base I see on Twitter. And now it might just be because they've gotten to beat up on Nebraska, and they're really hanging their hat on that. But I see that sentiment quite a bit. I really like, the moves that Indiana and Michigan State made with their coaches. I do think that they're just starting very far behind. So I like where they're going, but just not this year. And then Northwestern, Purdue, and UCLA are all going to be hot garbage in various degrees.
So I put, as you'll see later, I put Purdue in my yikes category as well. But they're a team that makes me nervous all the time because they somehow put together a team that's just scary enough to kind of frighten some teams, but
Yeah.
never good enough to really win. So Purdue is always one of those teams that I put a feather in. I'm like, watch out for those guys for a big
That's how I
upset.
feel about Northwestern.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
And it might just be because they got a couple of early wins before things really went to shit against Nebraska.
mhm.
Maybe that's why I'm a bit scarred by them. But yeah, same kind of sentiment where it's just like I don't. It feels like all right, you play Purdue and then you get a big game the next week. Maybe you're
Yeah.
um, looking ahead.
I think to Tyler's point, Purdue's just always a team that plays Nebraska close just for
Yeah,
no reason. Like they'll give Nebraska just the best version of themselves, and then you'll look up and they're like 5-7 or 6-6 at the end of the year, and you're like, how the hell did we struggle with these guys?
yeah.
That's true.
It's a good list though. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, who do we got next? We got Tyler.
Oh shit. All right, so we got the Wowza, obviously. Ohio State. Um, Probably gonna run through this conference. Brooke put this in my mind. I'll be honest. But as you look at that roster and the talent that they have, it's pretty obvious. The hell yeah tier is they're going to be in the mix throughout the season. Rutgers, I put up there. I'm not too sure on them, but I liked what they had last year, and I think that they can build on that. So I'm excited to see them play this year, except for against Nebraska. Um, Plus, if these teams are good, USC and Rutgers specifically, then that makes Nebraska look better. The please is please be good. This is just me being
Just
a Husker
begging
fan.
the football gods.
Yeah, please, for the love of God, just please be good. Um, then the good try is, hey, you showed up, you played some Big Ten games. Good try, buddies. A little pat on the head, send them on. You stink is pretty self-explanatory. These teams are going to be ass cheeks. And then the last one is if I see that duck one more time, it's on site, and that's Oregon. Uh, I don't know if you guys remember seeing this on Twitter.
Oh
That
yeah.
fucking duck, trying to scale walls, memeing the shit out of everybody. If I
I'd pay
see that,
that duck $100 to show up at your house.
it's on site. I'm
Just
spearing
not
the
even
fuck out
tell
of that
you,
duck.
but just like sit in your backyard or lay in your driveway.
Dude, if I saw that fucker on my camera, and I'm a baseball bat, and I'm going to down.
I
But
just
in all
I just want
seriousness,
him to wreak havoc on your life.
in all seriousness, without that duck, I do think that Oregon would be in the wowza category this year.
Fair.
So that's my tier list. Thoughts?
I like it. I like it.
Sure.
I
I mean,
think yeah.
Washington and Michigan being in the hell yeah tier worries me, but I might just be so far off on them.
And I
'Cause
might also. I mean, they could just be middle of the pack. I find it hard for them to be that much worse though than they were last year. They're obviously not going to be both a national championship game this year, but I think they're going to be the top end of the Big Ten.
I don't hate that. Yeah. I mean, there's always there's going to be 4 or 5 teams that we don't totally see eye to eye on. That's
Mhm.
why we all did our own tiers, but um yeah, it'll be interesting to see how some of that shakes out.
all right, and we got Brooks tier. Very
All right.
aesthetically
Um
aligned.
to to keep the ball rolling, I have the class of their own, like you guys, Oregon and Ohio State. And then my CFP potential, I have a couple of random ones in there. Nebraska, obviously, we talked about their schedule. If we are what we think we are, 10 wins isn't out of the question. Penn State probably is the next closest one to the class of their own. They're pretty much like set at 10 wins right now, I think. USC with Miller Moss could go either way. I could see them having like 8 wins. I could see them sneaking up there to 10. I don't know. Iowa's Iowa. As much as I hate saying that, their defense finds a way to keep them in every game they have. Michigan is the only team I really didn't want to put in this category because I truly believe they'll have at least 3 losses this year, but they they do bring back a lot on defense, which I didn't realize. So I
Yeah,
think
their defense is still going to be pretty
10-2.
good.
Yeah, no matter who the quarterback is, their defense is going to be pretty fucking good. So 10 wins isn't out of the question for them. And then Indiana. I didn't feel good about doing this,
That's the
but
one that threw me.
I
You
love.
got to walk us through Indiana.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a lot of factors. I was really researching this team. Their coach from JMU, he brought a bunch of JMU guys with him. So not only that, their quarterback, he went out and got one of the top transfer portal quarterbacks, Curtis Rourke from Ohio, which he's like a 5th-year guy, threw for a ton of yards and touchdowns in the MAC. A lot of teams wanted him. He brought in Wake Forest's #1 running back and then his top running back from JMU. He had 2 big-time receiver transfers in, and then he kept Elijah Surratt, who was one of the best in the Big Ten last year. And then he has like 2 all Big Ten potential O-line guys. So I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude, where is the hole in that offense? But the big thing for them is the defense. They do have a little production coming back from last year's team that wasn't very good, which, like USC, you would think would get a little better. But he brought in like a 125 tackle linebacker with him from JMU. He's got a couple D linemen from other places. And I just think with their schedule, they're like Rutgers, where they have Michigan on there at home, Washington at home, and then all of their road games are like UCLA, Purdue, all the bad teams. So like if they then jump up and bite Michigan, 10-2 is not out of the question. Which
Okay.
I don't think they will. I think 9 is probably their ceiling, but I've seen crazier things happen.
This take worries me because if you're right, I don't think we'll ever hear the end of it.
I think they're still probably a couple years away just because the cupboard was pretty bare for Signetti. But, I mean, the way their schedule lines up for him, it's like they're pretty sure going to get 7 or 8, I think, like no matter
Yeah.
what.
I could see them being like Northwestern last year, where they win a few games that they shouldn't, and they
But they
sneak
might
into
drop
the
a
boathood.
couple here. Yeah, I don't know. It's just they're one of my frisky teams.
Yeah.
Middle of the pack, Rutgers, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Washington, Illinois. I I do love Greg Schiano and Rutgers, but that quarterback couldn't hack it at Minnesota. So why do we think it's going to be that much better at Rutgers? I don't know.
I mean, I'd argue that I would feel more confident with him as Greg Schiano's quarterback than PJ Flex, but I see there's definitely a very low ceiling.
Well, Gavin Wimsatt, their quarterback last year, went to Kentucky, and he's, I think, going to be a backup there. But in my mind, I think he's better than Kaliak Manis or whatever his name is. So it's like they almost took a step back at a key position. I don't know. They could go either way. They could have maybe 10, they could have 7, but I don't the way they play, it's like a lot has to go right every week for them to get to 10 wins. It's very low scoring, control the ball, play solid defense. But when they play like Nebraska or USC or Ohio State or Oregon, it's like, and they have to score points, I don't know that they'll be able to.
You see the vision.
Minnesota's could get to 6 wins, could not. Wisconsin, I'm just not a believer in Van Dyke personally. Same with Washington and Will Rogers. And then Illinois I don't think they lost so much. They'll probably be 5-7, 6-6. And then the bottom of the barrel, the Terps. If it's MJ Morris, I maybe will slide them up to the middle of the pack.
I
But
forgot
if
they
it's
got MJ Morris.
if it's Billy Edwards, I think they're going to be sucky. Michigan State, I love Chili's and I love their coach, but when you look at how long it took him to get Oregon State going, like he's going to have a tough battle at Michigan State ahead of him. And then Purdue and Northwestern. Northwestern could get to 6 wins, but that would be like their ceiling. And then get ready to learn last place, buddy. UCLA 0-12 is very much on the table. Or 1-11. They
And I
go
feel
to
bad because they got put in a real bind with Chip Kelly leaving when he did.
And I'll say this, I could be very wrong, but the fact that Eric Bieniemy took that OC job tells me that that head coach could get fired and they might slide him into that spot because his whole thing was he needs head coaching experience.
That's true.
So in week 1, they go to Hawaii, who's going to be not a rollover game for LSU. Or UCLA, sorry.
I love it.
And there's just no. Because I mean, and the same thing happened with Colorado when Midnight Mel left, is that they just kind of had to promote somebody or get somebody who's definitely not ready to be a head coach. And yeah, UCLA is in that same exact spot. They don't do well in the transfer portal, so there's not only are they going to be awful this year, but there's really no light at the end of the tunnel anytime soon.
It just is so weird to me that such a decorated NFL offensive coordinator would take a worse, like a lateral position at a college, and a college that's not supposed to be very good, unless he thought there was a good chance he was going to get the bump to head coach soon.
I mean, he definitely wasn't going to get a head coaching job in the NFL.
Yeah. Must be a terrible interviewer because he's had a million interviews for jobs.
Good stuff.
But yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Next week we'll break down the schedule, go week by week, and really break it down. Point out the look aheads and possible hangover spots for Nebraska, of course. Any final thoughts before we wrap up, boys?
Go Big Red.
Go Big Red as always.